Guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having an amazing day. If you're new, welcome. I am so happy you're here. This is Creativity and Inspiration, and I'm Lisa. Excuse the fuzzy hair. It is very humid today, unfortunately. But maybe it'll rain. That's the thing. If we get rain in July, it's amazing. It's been really hot, and if you live anywhere, I think in the middle of the country, it's been pretty hot. So I hope you're all staying cool. And if you live somewhere where it's naturally cool, you're lucky. Enjoy it. I'm glad everybody's here. Today I have a fun video. This is something that I've been kicking around in the back of my head for a while. And I've been wanting to do a video, but been busy with my husband and stuff. But today is the day. I've got everything pulled for it. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about creating really cool scrapbook pages inside my journal. Because I want the freedom of a journal. I don't want to be so... I love scrapbooking, but to me it's too confined, if that makes sense. But I'm going to take some elements out of it that I really love in scrapbooking, and I'm going to put them into my journal. I'm actually going to show you 2 different ways to do this, and I hope you enjoy these because I think they're going to be amazing. So let's get ready. Come on in and let's get started. Okay, how we're going to start is, first I want to talk about the freedom a journal gives you. And I know you can do this in a scrapbook, but we already do this in a journal. And what I'm talking about is all the different types of paper we use to create a journal, right? We use magazine, we use music paper, we use coffee dyed papers. We use just all sorts of different papers to make the pages of our journal. And this is a great thing because we could create a photo layout on any of these that would be different and unique and be special. And especially think if you're doing a summertime journal and you have somebody that loves tea or picnics or a combination of like sweet tea on a picnic. You could use some fun papers in your journal. You could use a coffee stained paper, right, to give it that vintage feel and build upon that. Or maybe you're doing a travel journal. Maybe you're traveling this summer. You're going to have probably a map page in your journal somewhere. That would be the perfect backdrop to start building on a travel page. So if you have a music lover, of course, we always have music papers in our journal. This could be a good base for your music lover page, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a plain page, but I'm only doing that so it'll pop off the page and you can see everything. Again, if I was doing this, maybe if I was doing my, if I was doing somebody that loved to maybe picnic, maybe I would pick a vintage looking page. Or this green page of writing because it looks like grass. I would pick a different page, but I want this to pop for you guys, and I want you to be able to see everything that I'm doing. So I'm going to do plain white on both of these examples. Now, so the first step is picking the page out of all your journal pages that speaks to what you want to build on, okay? I'm doing white again just because I want it to pop. Second is you're going to take your photo, and I'm going to use the sticker, photo sticker I made last time or 2 videos ago. And so this is going to be my photo that I'm going to highlight. Now, say my grandmother and my great-grandmother loved sweet tea on a picnic. I'm going to go back to that one. I'm going to make a paper frame, and I'm going to double layer it. 2 layers are just going to make my photo pop. And I want this to be the star. No matter what my background paper is, the photo is always the star. So you want to mat it so that it really pops off that page. For my 2 grandmothers, I'm going to use this rooster paper I have with some solid red because they complement each other. And both of my grandmothers love chickens. But here's the deal. Say they did love the picnic. You don't have to use just paper. Use tissue papers. Use tea bags. Use tickets. Use anything that is going to convey what you want to convey about your photo. Alright, so my mat is going to be my rooster paper and the red paper. And I'm doing just a thin layer of the roosters, but I want some of the birds to show because that's the whole point of getting the paper. So I'm going to have to, let's see, I'm going to have to pick a spot on here where I can actually get a couple of the little roosters in around the frame here. I'm going to draw in the back, the shape, and it's easy because it has dots on the back, which makes me happy. And I want it to be a little bigger. And you can draw it the same size as your picture. You can draw it a little bigger, whatever you want to do. And remember, it has to fit on your journal page too. If this doesn't quite fit on mine, that's fine because this is an example. And I always make my examples a little exaggerated. So you guys can definitely see what I'm going for here. Those dots on the back really helped me cut straight lines, which if you know me, I never use a ruler. Sorry if you like rulers, but you do you, I'll do me. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on this red sheet. And I'm just tracing around my image. This one's going to be real tight and into the photograph. And you can always trim down if it's too big. And I want the red. And you can even have this second frame, your double matting or double framing. I'm calling it framing, it's matting, but you know what I mean. You can always not do, but it's just going to help it pop a little. And see just a little bit of the red. You can still see a hint of the chickens. And that is making my picture, which is going to be the star of the show, really pop. Which is why matting in a journal is just as great as matting in a scrapbook. Double matting. So I'm going to put this in the center. You can put it at the top. You could put it wherever it would fit in your journal, wherever you want it. Now, after you get your picture put down, you want to add some interest around it, okay? I wish I had some little chickens. I do not have any die cuts of chickens, so I'm going to use these flowers as an example. But you would pick something that would go with your matting, okay? And these are a little large too, but you will get the idea. Now, I picked black and white with kind of a tea tint to them because my photo is that way. And I want these to fade into the background and not overpower the picture. That's why I said they're a little large, but you can always cut down. You can kind of hide. And I'm going to put these around the top, and I'm just going to put some roses because my grandmothers were that special, like a rose, okay? And what I'm going to do is put those at the top like that, and then layer that. And it's going to look something like this. Now, my picture is still the star. If you wanted to go into your black and white die cut, you could add, a little bit of color with your watercolor map colors if you wanted to, or your paints or markers, whatever, if you wanted to. I don't want to. I want it just kind of be in the background because they're my star and they're double matted with my paper, so they're popping, okay? And then my words are going to go down here. Now, words you can do two ways too. You can print them out and cut them out and map them on a little bit of paper, not all the way around because you don't want the words to, again, overshine your photo. But you do want them to know they're tied into this photo, or you could just write directly on your journal page. It's whatever you want to do. You could also fill all around with die cuts if you wanted to, and just put a little caption on the side of the photo. That is totally up to you and what you want your photo and your layout to say. But this is a great way to highlight photos in our junk journals. I know a lot of people tell me, hey, I love making them. I don't use them. I'm not comfortable using them. I don't know how to use them. This way is one way to use them. Use them like a scrapbook, only you have less rules, I guess I like to say. So you could do that as well. And then I have family is everything on the side, which, believe me, if you ever knew these two ladies, that spoke volumes because that's what they were all about. And there we go. So that is one way you could do a scrapbook layout in a junk journal. Have a second way, and I'll tape all that down in just a minute, is to, I have to go back here to my next blank page here, is to use paint to color block. Instead of using paper to frame your photo, use some paints. Add some interest, movement, and texture with paints instead. Again, this is because you have more freedom when you're working in a junk journal. And just in case you didn't know, acrylic paints are archival. So what I'm going to do, because I still do want to highlight my grandmother's, but I want the two paint textures to be different. So the first color block I'm going to do on my page, or the first mat I'm going to do on the page itself. The second color mat I'm going to do on a book sheet and put the photo on that. And then what we're going to do is layer them up the same as I did back here with the roosters and red paper. But instead of using die cuts around it, I'm going to show you a couple of other options and another option for your words as well. Okay, I'm back, and what I did was I got a soft blue and a soft purple acrylic paint because my great-grandmother and my grandmother always had hydrangeas around this house where this photo was taken, and they were always that purple blue kind of one that's kind of mixed. So these colors always remind me of them, and I'm going to use those to create this image. Now the purple is the darker of the two colors, so I'm going to make that the base frame or the bigger frame. And then the book page I'm going to do with some of the soft blue as the second frame, or matte, either one. They're mattes, but I call them frames just because. And you can do this, you could do circles, it doesn't have to be a square. You know, it's your journal, you can make it however you want it to be. You could do any shape, anything you wanted. You could even do like a large flower and then put the center as your photo. That's always something too. Anything you can think of is perfect. Now this will wrinkle your page up a little bit, just be aware. Doesn't have to be perfect unless you want it perfect. Remember, all these are just creative inspiration for you guys. You do however you see fit. While the purple dries, now I'm going to do some on my book page. And you don't have to have a second mat or frame all the way around. You could have it 3/4 around, which I think is how this one's going to end up, which is fine. Yeah. So I'm going to mat it like that. It's still going to pop. But let me do this color now. Also, if you want to do like a whole mat and the word show, maybe that's, part of making the photo pop and everything. And if you're using words as your background and you want the words to show through the paint, if you can either put a real light layer like I did, or if you want them to show through even more than that, you can always water down your acrylic paint. It doesn't mess up the composition and it just makes it see-through, which I have found is a nice way to get see-through instead of buying see-through paints, because it can get expensive when I already have tons of paint that I can just water down just a tad. Here is our second mat, all dried. Here's our first mat. It's all with acrylic paint. I'm going to set this one inside of there, and then my photo there, and I want the purple to show out at the bottom. And again, my photo is now popping. It's double matted. At this step before, what we did was we added our die cut flowers just to kind of add a little more interest and movement to the page. Now at this step prior, we added die cuts to add just a little more interest and movement to the page. Keep in mind though, normally your page is not going to be blank. It's going to be coffee stained. It's going to be music paper. It's going to be a map. It's just going to be a piece of plain magazine. It can be anything. Or it could be white, whatever you want to be. Remember, I'm just using white so you can definitely see each step. But before we added the black and white die cuts. This time I'm not going to add die cuts, but I'm going to you can do one of two things. You can add some washi if you have a washi that tells the story, but remember, you don't want it to take away from the star, which is the photo. You could also add in some doodling if you wanted to, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add in a little bit of doodling, and then we'll talk about options for words besides typing up, printing, or writing. And I'm just simply drawing in some easy flowers, nothing too elaborate. I just want to show you that you could doodle, you could draw whatever you wanted to do. Oops. And if you mess up, do it with pencil. I did it with pen, but again, you know, everybody messes up. Just correct it however you want. You could paint your frame out farther. You could, you know, do whatever you wanted to correct it. And that just gives you an idea of how doodling would look. And it looks very nice, very easy to do. Simple flowers. Now for words, there's fun things you can do. Of course, you can play with fonts and print them out, whatever word processing program you use. You could write if you have, you know, if you do calligraphy, or if you have just a beautiful handwriting, or even if you don't, you could write out your words. There's all sorts of options. You could cut words out of magazines. You could also use the words out of books that people print, you know, that you could just stick on. Washi tape, sometimes you can find washi tape with words. You can make your own washi tape with words. So it's totally up to you how you present it. You could also add secondary photos if they tie into the first one. Like I could come back and print up a photo of each one separately. Maybe put their birthdays on here, something like that, which I will probably do later. And remember, I was also talking about using different papers besides your just regular scrapbook paper, you know, using coffee dyed papers, using magazines, using tissue papers or tea bags. And I just kind of wanted to show you what that would look like. You could also use some cardboard. It's a great texture. It would definitely draw attention to the photos. Let me get the photo back here. Oh, here it is. You know, it would obviously draw a lot of attention. You could paint it a fun color. The tea bags, let me find the tissue paper. And again, you don't have to do, you know, your mats don't have to be square. You don't have to do full mats. You can do any size, shape that tells your story or highlights your photo the way you want it highlighted. And I'll show you that here. Again, here's my photo. They both loved, you know, sweet tea. So you could do 3 mats. I could do this with some red, or do a grass like a picnic. I could put the tissue paper down then, and of course have my tea there as well, and create a photo somewhere like that. Just so you know it's a tea bag, you know, the grass would tell you it's a picnic, that sort of thing. So don't lock yourself in with just scrapbook papers or, paper. Use whatever you have around you that helps highlight your photo and tell the story that you're wanting to tell. And remember, your pages can be white, they can be colorful, they could be magazines, maps, music papers. You could do a page of fabric and then do your same layering process with whatever you have and create your image that way as well. You don't have to always have words. You might have one or two versus a whole paragraph. It just depends on what the photo means to you, how much you want to document the photo. And basically for this photo, it says family is everything. That totally wraps it up. And you could do your words like this too. It's, totally up to you. This is just inspiration. This could be a background. This would be good for something maybe doing with water because it has the blue and the brown. Just when you're picking your papers, if it ties into whatever your photo is, it's just going to make your photo that much more. Now, what about, let's say you don't want to do a mat. That's just you've done mats now and you don't want to do any mats. What could you do? You can make corners. You don't have to go spend a lot of money. This is an apple cinnamon packet of oatmeal. I'm just cutting off my corners. And you could do 2 corners. You could do multiple corners, however you wanted to. And instead of doing all of the matting, you just come in and put your corners in the tips. And if you wanted to do corners that showed, I just did brown, so they're kind of blending in. And you could use a color. And then that really pops as well. Like that. That's an option too. And for your words, you could use a fun shape. This is almost like a little tag that kind of folds out now. You could put that, have your photo up here. I know the colors don't match, but just to show you, you could put this here, put a little button to close it, especially like a vintage button. If your image is vintage like mine, I could put a vintage button with just a little bit of Velcro to keep it closed. Then I could open it and I could write about my grandmother and my great-grandmother. And then that would sit there like that, all nice and closed up when I'm on other pages in my journal. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked kind of the tips and tricks of creating a scrapbook layout in your junk journal. It's more free, less rules, I think. But it also is something different and allows you maybe to use your journals in a different way as well. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me a lot. Also, please leave me a comment down below. Did you scrapbook before you started junk journaling, or have you always just junk journaled? Thanks for being here today, guys. I will see you with another video at the end of the week. Take care. Bye-bye.